What we have right now is a conversation on energy security, which has come out as quite prominent here in Davos, and we're joined by South Africa's Minister of Energy, Dipuo Peters. Thank you very much for your time. Energy security is a major issue at Davos 2011. Oil prices raising, all sorts of issues like that coming to the fore. What do you make of what's going on?
I believe that as South Africa, the process that we have already started engaging on in making sure that as South Africa we plan for the need of South Africans in terms of the energy projections that we have. We have also started developing what we call the liquid fuels infrastructure plan, the gas infrastructure plan. We are busy finalizing the integrated resource plan, which is the power generation plan. So after that, we will be consolidating all these plans into an energy integrated plan, where we would then be able to say in the next 20 years, what is the gas projections that we have, what is the oil projections that we have, what is the electricity requirements that we have for South Africa. You would know that as South Africa, because of our need to be able to create jobs, we have said that we need to make sure that we increase our power capacity. We want to be able to introduce about 20,000 megawatts in the next 20 years. And I'm happy to indicate to you that in the next 10 years, we will have introduced more than 5,000 megawatts of solar as well as wind energy.
Let's talk about the reality that we're facing in South Africa right now. We've got energy supply purely because the demand is less, because the economy is not growing at a level at which it should be growing. With economic recovery comes incredible pressure on the grid. And we know Eskom has said they can't guarantee electricity beyond 2013. What interim measures are you introducing?
The most important interim measure that we are introducing as South Africa is energy efficiency, because we believe that if we conserve the little that we have, it is the first line of power supply that we would have. And I'm happy to indicate that we've already have more than 43 million CFLs in the country, and I want to thank South Africans for the response in terms of the uptake. But we're also saying that as industry, we have an initiative called the Power Conservation Program, where the different intensive energy users have come to the party, and they have indicated to us that in the very near future they'll be giving us an indication of the amount of megawatts that you'll be able to save. They are projecting about 5,000 megawatts that they will be able to save. But we have also started making sure that we introduce through the refit the renewable energy initiatives from waste to energy, as well as the biogas and all those other initiatives that would give us about, I'm told that the uptake that we have received so far, more than 300 companies, indicates that they can produce about 20,000 megawatts. So if we can be able to make the access to the grid faster, and I want to indicate to you that the independent power producers that we have said must come to the equation. We want to say to them that very soon we'll be tabling the independent systems and market operator legislation.
I'm glad you're mentioning them together with the integrated resource plan, because whilst the country is debating the new energy mix, independent power producers continue to argue on two levels: the monopoly of Eskom and the fact that Eskom won't buy energy from IPPs, and the second issue is return on investment and the extent to which we need to rethink the funding model for electricity, the pricing of electricity, to incentivize investment in the sector. How are you going to address that?
I just want to indicate that the unfortunate situation that we have as at present is that there was a call from business itself and labor itself to say, can you delay the promulgation of the integrated resource plan so that they can then be able to project the potential for investment in it, especially for South African companies, but also to be able to make sure that labor can project the energy carriers, the amount of jobs that they would create, so that we just don't retrofit to an energy carrier that is going to work against our own objective of the new growth path, as well as the industrial policy action plan of localization in terms of growing the manufacturing. If we speak to the issue of returns on investment, I just want to say that as South Africa, we are committed, because we have said that we need to make it possible that the consumer can afford the power, but also that the investor should be able to get his return or her returns on the investments. So those details, Treasury as well as DTI and Energy are finalizing. And when we table the integrated resource plan very soon in Cabinet, we'll be laying out all those details.
What about the role of business in all of this? I know you've been emphasizing co-generation and that big manufacturers, mining houses, etc., should feed back into the system. But there's also talk of some kind of a penalty or a levy on those who are big industrial users. What is that tax that's being spoken about? What are the sort of penalties that business is going to incur? Because they've already said that for them, rising electricity costs means an additional 2 billion rands to their annual spend. And if electricity costs rise, we must expect jobs to be lost because they can't service both areas.
Let me start by indicating that the President of the Republic, Mr. President Jacob Zuma, has implored on us as the energy sector to say we need to make it possible that business can grow, but we also need to make it possible that there's enough power supply. What we are now introducing is to make it possible that that intensive energy users group that you're talking about can be able to be given the space to own generate. Say, for example, if you build a smelter that needs 150 megawatts, you need to be able to show to us that you are going to provide your own power. But what we are looking also at is to be able to introduce incentives through Treasury. And like I indicated to you earlier on, that Treasury is finalizing that incentive scheme, which is the standard offer. That would indicate that if you have excess power supply, how much we would be able to pay for it to get it back onto the grid. So we believe that by separating the grid management from Eskom, would be able to also allow Eskom to focus on power generation and also making sure that the other power generators don't have limitations in terms of access to the grid. So we believe that standard offer that Treasury and the DPE are finalizing would be able to introduce this particular initiative. But I also say that we, together with the Department of Tourism, looking at making it possible that we can retrofit the hospitality industries so that they can then be able to have half of their requirement energy to be able to get it from renewable energy. Unlike this place, South Africa has ample sun, ample wind, which we can then be able to utilize for power generation. But I just want to say that for business, we want to make it possible that you could be able to co-generate like we've already started doing with Sasol and the other companies that are able to sell back the pulp industry companies that are selling back to the grid.
Climate change is a major theme here at Davos. Everybody's pursuing the green agenda, and I know South Africa's committed itself to renewable energy targets, very ambitious ones, by the year 2020 and then 2030. Again, exactly what kind of work is being done? There's a lot of work about solar power, but we're told the investment costs are too expensive. We hear about wind, but only specific geographical areas can carry it because we're such a sunny country. So
Yes.
how are you going to tackle these ones?
If I have to go into the wind energy space within the renewable energy, we've got 10 wind stations. We've already launched our wind atlas, which shows the areas for potential investors in the wind area. When it comes to solar, we've already had an investor conference in Uppington, where we had quite a number of investors from all over the world who are interested in participating in the solar park. We've already been indicating that we are technology neutral. We're not going to say CSP and PV and all that. We want the most cost-effective technology, because you would know that the end consumer will have to pay for that electricity. But we're also saying we have taken a decision by 2014 we want to see more than 1 million solar water heaters. The challenge has been Eskom has introduced the rebate. When Eskom increased the rebate, the supplier increased the price, and that is a challenge because it then reduced the uptake. So we are appealing to everybody in South Africa to make it possible that we can do that. But we're also saying we want to make sure that South Africa and the region is integrated. You would know that we're working with the DRC and Angola and Botswana and Namibia on the Inga development for hydro scheme. Imagine what could happen to the continent of Africa if we can have that 100,000 megawatts. My president says we need to integrate the infrastructure of Africa in the best interest of economic development.